This is Tom Lee, editor-in-chief for NEJM Catalyst. And today, in our series of talks with CEOs who have managed their organizations through amazing times recently, we're interviewing my old friend and colleague, Danny Jacobs, who just under 3 years ago became the president of Oregon Health Sciences University. Danny's from rural Arkansas. He went to WashU for medical school before coming east for training. And we got to know each other when he was a surgical fellow at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I was training in cardiology. He was a great colleague then, and he went on to leadership roles to Duke and University of Texas before coming to OHSU. Now, when Danny joined OHSU, there were plenty of issues that were challenging for this AMC's missions, but no one could have predicted COVID or George Floyd and the challenges that they would pose for his community. Maybe we could have predicted the wildfires, but I don't think anyone thought they would be as bad as they were for Portland. Before we get into the challenges that these all pose for you and your management team last year, could you tell listeners who might not know much about OHSU a little bit about the organization?
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Lee, Tom. So Oregon Health and Science University is Oregon's only public academic health center. We encompass 3 hospitals, not counting our VA and Shriners hospital affiliations. And we have medical, dental, nursing, physician assistant, and public health schools. We are Oregon's and one of the nation's leaders in tertiary and quaternary care. And our research programs on average rank in the top 25% nationally. We're also the city of Portland's largest employer with more than 18,000 employees, and we have about 5,000 students. We like to say our primary mission and reason for being is to support the health and well-being of those in Oregon, folks in the Pacific Northwest and beyond.
Well, I've visited OHSU a couple of times, and I feel like your mission is making everyone else feel jealous of the place you get to live and work in. It's this unspeakably beautiful campus and an unspeakably beautiful city. And you've got many great people doing great work. I mean, I know primary care, family practice, and ophthalmology training programs are top 10. It seems idyllic, but last year seemed like a perfect storm, actually multiple perfect storms. Can you describe the confluence of challenges that you and your team were facing last year?
Well, yes. Well, first, absolutely. I agree that Portland is a beautiful place and it's a beautiful city. And certainly we have many, many strengths, but the pandemic is like nothing I've seen in my lifetime. And at the university, certainly it's been challenging as we try to address the effects of the pandemic on our university and those we serve, the associated public health challenges, as well as getting our communities vaccinated. Like you referenced, on top of that, in the past year, we've seen a social justice uprising that frankly reminds me of the civil rights movement. You also referenced the wildfires that devastated our state, but I would add in a contentious presidential election and the storming of the U.S. Capitol. It really has been relentless. One of the most important critical aspects of what we've experienced this past year, those events have been magnified by the challenges of racial and social inequities and racism in general. In my view, it's been a common theme underlying all of these crises. So while historically marginalized people and communities have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 and its effects, I think it's also true that many eyes and hearts and minds have been opened, if only because how these various challenges have converged. We're seeing people mobilize to take action like never before, certainly not in my lifetime. And importantly, I'm hearing people speak out for what's right and to share their beliefs, where I think an important necessary first step is to actually name the challenges, name inequities, name racism, to acknowledge their presence, as uncomfortable as that might be.
Now, equity issues have roiled every city, but incredibly, I think maybe more Portland than any other I know of. How has this affected life on the campus where you're trying to take care of patients and do surgeries? And what has this meant for you and your management team trying to get through the week and the month and the quarter?
Well, I think it's fair to say that equity issues are deeply felt by the members of our university. I think they're also palpable in terms of what I see and hear from our legislators and folks in the community. At OHSU, we're trying to face them head on. As I said, it's not easy, it's often uncomfortable, but I believe, and I think our members believe, it's the right thing to do. In that light, one of the things we decided and said was most important was to, the expression, turn the mirror on ourselves, to examine our own house, if you will. So in that light, we publicly described our desire to become a trauma-informed, multicultural, anti-racist institution free of discrimination and harassment, where everyone is welcomed and empowered to do good work. We certainly are proud of what we've done as an institution, but we thought we had ample opportunity to ask what we could do better. So for the better part of the last year, maybe even beginning beforehand, as the university engaged in its institution-wide OHSU 2025 strategic plan, we've been focused on identifying racism, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, and other obstacles to success and happiness might exist at OHSU. One important step that we'll be taking this week is to hire a nationally renowned expert in these areas to help us, to come in and conduct a comprehensive investigation, turning the light on ourselves, as I say, or turning the mirror on ourselves. We think this is important to help guide our new actions, the actions that we'll be taking, and an important part of that is helping to hold us accountable for furthering an environment and culture at OHSU that speaks to and reflects the highest ideals.
So I think you got to what was going to be my next question, which is how do you organize for it? I think part of the answer, at least, is that you're engaging an outsider who, everyone should be able to trust is going to be objective to help you look in the mirror and be honest about what's there.
That's exactly right, and it's important to note that the investigator will be reporting to the HR committee of the board, and so we hope that will instill further trust that we really are doing a deep and dense evaluation of ourselves, and we expect recommendations to come forward in terms of how we can improve. That doesn't mean that we're not continuing a lot of internal work. Like I said, much of that actually started before the events of the past year, where we've been trying to reflect on who we want to be as a academic medical center. I referenced our clinical strategic plan. Actually was a crowdsourced approach to strategic planning, where we provided ways for the whole community to help identify our timeless aspirations or goals. And then what objectives should be informed by those goals, and then being even more granular and rigorous, saying, well, here are the specific objectives, here are the tactics, here are the things that we're going to measure, here's how we will report it to make sure that we're on task and on track. And so that was a really important part of, saying, yes, we can do some things internally, but in this particular instance, it's always valuable, in my view, to have outside expertise that are allowed to function independently of me and the leadership team in terms of assessing our culture.
Well, those are two pretty interesting innovations that I think reflects the nature of the community that your medical center's in. You're crowdsourcing your strategic plan, and you have something like an external audit of your culture. It's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out. But your team must be exhausted. How do you go about sustaining the morale of your workforce and your managers through times like you've been through?
Yeah, Absolutely. Well, one of the things we did was to remind ourselves that we need to ask our members in our community what we can do to help, right? Instead of assuming that we have the best solutions to address the challenges. That's faulty in my experience, and I think not necessarily the best way to get what needs to be done in the eyes of the folks that are, living and experiencing COVID-19 and related challenges. We certainly have been in nonstop crisis mode, you might say, for the last year. As a leadership team, including our board, we are believers in crisis management best practices. And as you probably know, or have heard, or have taught, in our view, every crisis has two phases. Of course, the event itself, but we also have to be ever mindful of the effects of the event that follow, the tail, if you will. Certainly, as we experience here, the event itself can be overwhelmingly stressful, but the tail can be even more challenging. And so, because of the challenging effects of the tail, and also because the tail effects may change rapidly, in some cases almost daily, we said we had to do everything possible to be sure our activities were aligned, coordinated, and well communicated, densely communicated as one university. So, for example, we stood up various committees addressing our administrative support services, our clinical activities, our education and research programs. We even stood up an incident structure for patient care services in particular, where one of the most important outcomes was to manage our patient care services, but also help the state manage its response. And there are many examples here, but it includes looking at HR availability, working from home, what sort of devices must be provided to those who were able to work at home, COVID-19 hotline, hardship funds provided in part by philanthropy, virtual and research virtual accommodations for our research and education programs. And all of this was overseen and even to this day is managed by a university transition task force. Our effort was to make sure that all of the folks involved in the various mission activities were seeing the same problem set, addressing them in a unified manner, communicating that effectively to all of our employees.
Well, a tremendous amount of activity. My last question is, what sustains you through all of this?
Well, it certainly has been exhausting, as you said earlier. And I personally I have a great sense of pride that our institution and its members are trying to fill what I would say are very important roles for the state. I think it's actually that mission that keeps our people going. It also helps keep me going. And I would also say that it's been great to see such an outpouring of support from some of our community partners. I try to remember and try to remind everyone to tell the good stories that are happening every day. And there are many of them, and I don't want us to lose track of them. Just today, for example, we had a virtual town hall where we reflected upon the events of the last year and its impact on our people. We wanted to recognize the lives that have been lost, but also we wanted to recognize the tremendous contributions our members have made. One of the things that's most gratifying and marvelous for me is I had a chance to visit some of the mass vaccination sites that we had set up in the area. And we did this in partnership with the Red Cross and our local airport authority. And that was really just seeing folks volunteering to staff those clinics helped remind me about the good stories, if you will, and that's our effort to improve public health. So along the way, the other thing I think has been very helpful is, as I referenced earlier, trying to be clear about what we know and what we don't know, to have open and honest communication regularly, that includes a daily newsletter that we publish just to keep people up to date. And I think the other thing that's been really important for our members is, in addition to all the things that are happening right now, we spend time and are spending time identifying what can or should be taken off our to-do list. You know, what should be prioritized when and why is the question we ask ourselves. Because if you don't mind the analogy, you know, there's so many plates spinning at the same time. I think it's incumbent upon our leadership team and me to say, well, gosh, you know, what can we take off the plate? What plate can we not spin as we get to the other side of the pandemic? Although there will be ongoing work and effort needed around equity and the other issues we mentioned earlier. One of the things we heard from our members was, you know, we needed additional wellness resources for our employees. So we've had a chance to stand up those kinds of resources for our people as well. And I think that's been welcomed.
Well, it's been an amazing year, and I know that you and your team have risen to the occasion, and there are going to be more challenges ahead. And I'm sure that you'll be stronger because of all the lessons learned. We'll be really interested to hear how things go with that equity audit and the crowdsourced strategic plan. So we'll be checking in.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the questions, for the conversation, and we plan to continue to be better. You know that old song, better every day.
Thank you so much, Danny.
All right, thank you very much, Tom.